This is Jonathan Agger, fifth for Pro Boxing Fans, joined by St George Groves here in Bournemouth. Just seen your old stablemate, Pro Boxing Fans.
Pro Boxing Fans, wicked. Is it new? How long have you been about?
About 3 years.
Oh, fucking hell, sorry. You've got.
We've had you on before as well, but we won't mention that.
I've missed it. Yeah, brilliant. I saw the logo. I was like, maybe you got a new logo then? What am I missing out?
Logo.
Well, that's where you throw me off at least. Thank you. Yeah.
You knew about us anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We've just seen your old stablemate and sparring partner, Chris Billam-Smith, knock out Xhoxhaj. What did you make of it? I mean, the guy had a real go in there, but Chris knockout of the year contender.
Yeah, brilliant finish from Chris Billam-Smith. A fighter who just makes improvements every time you see him box. A diligent ambassador of the sport, works hard, always wants to make those improvements, always wants those to make those minute. Minimal gains in his camps and in his focus and everything. So, yeah, also with Chris, he does sometimes show an air of vulnerability. And tonight it looked like he got caught in the second round and he sort of gave a little nod to his opponent and then had to weather a bit of a storm where it sort of spurred Xhoxhaj on to try and get the finish. So, yeah, Chris is a big guy. He's a lot of target for people to hit. So sometimes he does get caught, but some of the things he did tonight were exceptional, and then lots of his game is improving leaps and bounds. So the jab was much sharper tonight. The distance that he was using, the jab, whether it be dropping back off of it, catching and firing tight, bent arm shots, and then obviously with the finish, he has concussive knockout punch power. So to finish the way he did was brilliant, and the right uppercut was a peach, definitely a knockout of the year contender.
It's a bit of a weird one because, before the fight everyone says, this is an easy fight and you should win this easy, and then when the guy is quite good and catches Chris, everyone's like, he's not ready for a world title. So what do you make of sort of some of this criticism? Do you think it was just the fact that it isn't the world title shot, or it's just things for Chris to improve on?
No, I wouldn't say from tonight's performance to say he's not ready for a world title. I'd like to see him get a chance to fight for a world title next year. He's highly ranked with all the governing bodies. He's a good fit. He's got the backing now of Boxer and Sky, and he's selling out arenas here in Bournemouth. So he's definitely marketable. He's always in fan-friendly fights, and I think he's got the talent and the skill and the desire and the work ethic and everything else is needed to become a world champion. So I'd love to see him get the opportunity. Tonight I thought it was a great performance from Chris. Sure, he got caught, and sure he had to weather the storm a little bit, but it just shows you that this guy sort of slipped under the radar a bit and people didn't know that much about him. But he's a good guy with good power, good, came to win, and I know you expect more than just that sort of saying, but he didn't go into his shell. He really pushed on, and to the point where he ended up walking onto a heroic right uppercut from Chris Billam-Smith that just absolutely flattened him. So I think it was a really smart, concussive performance. I think if you're world champions out there and you watch that tonight, sure, you might be looking for a couple of vulnerabilities in Chris Billam-Smith where you think you might have some success, but also you'll be cacking your pants a little bit about that punch power. So yeah, it was great from him.
Just whilst I've got you here, George, let's just talk about one other thing. Kell Brook did an interview with Boxing King Media where he talked about sort of the struggles he's had after retiring, and he said he felt like he died and things like that. Do you relate to that at all? Obviously, you've been retired a while now and you got things going on with your podcast, George Groves podcast. Do you relate to it at all?
I haven't seen the exact comments that Kell has said, so I don't know. I won't go into any detail, but I do know it's tough once you retire from boxing because it can be a crisis of identity. If you identify as a fighter and you have done your entire life, and then all of a sudden you're not. Hey Anna, how are you? You okay? Come find you in a bit. It can be tough. It can be really tough. He might be going through that bit of a lull. When he's retired on a win, he might want to feel like he can go again, but he knows it's probably best he doesn't. It's tough. It can be really tough. I'd like to see him doing some boxing related stuff. That's usually the best way to handle that. If you can't be the man in the arena anymore, if you're in the gym working with young fighters, exciting fighters, amateurs, or start a podcast. Scratches that itch.
And we've got probably Fury against Usyk in March, April time. What do you think of the fight?
Yeah, it could be a great fight. Both very good fighters, obviously. I really rate Usyk. I think Usyk could give Fury a whole load of trouble. Be tough when it actually comes down to it to sort of maybe pick against Fury. But I am a secret Usyk, well, it's not even a secret Usyk fan. I'm a huge Usyk fan. I think he's a class above every other heavyweight in terms of his talent. Just whether he's big enough to beat Fury, I don't know. But that'd be a great fight. Keeps the heavyweights rocking along, ticking along. Good stuff.
And in your opinion, is AJ right to be changing his trainer? It looks like he might be going to maybe one of the other American coaches, or would you like to see him stick with Robert Garcia?
I think Robert Garcia is a fantastic coach, but Anthony Joshua does what Anthony Joshua needs to do. You know, like he's at the stage of career, he's got to make pressure's on to make the right decisions, I suppose. And if he thinks he can maybe do better, then you know, I think that's the best way to go about it. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously hundreds of great trainers out there, and his name and his status can probably command the attention of the vast majority of them. So yeah, I mean, we might see a bit more from him, which is exciting for the fans.
George, really appreciate your time. Obviously, keep it locked to George Groves Boxing Club. Yes. I believe the podcast's called. Just tell the fans how you're finding it all. You had your old mate Carl Froch on it, which was good. Yes,
we've had Carl Froch on, so we've had many others. So we'll have a boxing-related guest coming on talking about a boxing-related subject. You know, it goes out every week, every Wednesday. You get the George Groves Boxing Club podcast. Everywhere you get your podcast, you know, wherever you want to get him, they're there. And yeah, we've had Carl Froch on, my new best mate, and he comes on and we talk about what it's like preparing for the last fight. So Carl's obviously he's had a long, extensive career and he's done many different things, but I wanted to get to the bottom of. He's let slip on our little tour that he knew that our last fight, his last fight at Wembley was going to be his last fight. So I wanted to have a little dig and delve into what his mindset was, how he's approaching his training, what everyone else was around him was saying, and then so we can uncover some hidden gems, and we did. So it's a really good listen. But we've had solicitors on talking about contracts. We've had Frank Smith, CEO of Match, on talking about money. We've had a boxing photographer, Philip Sharkey, who's a legend. Dad was a professional fighter in the 50s, coming on talking about being a photographer at ringside, trying to capture the action, capture the moment behind the lens, and then you know many other fighters, prospects, champions, former champions, retired fighters, myself included. So yeah, it's the best podcast on the planet. Obviously, almost as good as
Pro Boxing,
PBF, yeah.
George, appreciate your time and have a good night.
I will.
Cheers.
Lovely thing.